Now, in regards to the nervous, so now this is just the development process and how anxiety, even from the womb. So I want to talk a little bit about that anxiety, even from the womb. So there's a science, a new science called epigenetics. And this is basically about the atmosphere, how the atmosphere or the environment, right, was considered the environment that we have actually creates, it influences our lives more than actually genes. Okay, so this is the whole nature versus nurture. And, that there was this whole big battle, nature versus nurture. And for a long time, they thought, okay, wait, genes, which is nature, actually would predict the outcomes more than nurture or environment. And so what they found, though, they did this big human genome project, and they found that, then this is what epigenetics was birthed from. They found that, wait, no, actually, when you have a certain environment, the environment can actually determine whether a certain gene will be turned on or off. So what am I saying? What is all of this saying? It's saying that basically babies, even in the mother's womb, okay, are receiving, experiencing the environment of the mother's emotions, and those get downloaded onto the baby. So if a parent is struggling with anxiety or going through it, and that's why now a lot of times intakes and assessments will ask the mother, what was the condition of your pregnancy? What was your pregnancy like? What was going on when you had, because that atmosphere, that environment gets downloaded to the baby. Okay, so the mother's heart and emotions are important. That's the epigenetics. Then, now, remember, we're talking about the nervous system. So then we go into mirror neurons. So the baby then comes out. The baby's born and comes out of the womb. Now, the baby, we talked about how the belief systems and how everything gets developed from 0 to 7, right? So now the baby is fully alert, and the little kid is alert to its atmosphere and to its surroundings. And it's a sponge. The brain waves are very, very slow. The brain waves are that we have there's alpha, there's delta. So their brain waves are like in the delta when they're awake. That's the very slow brain wave. And it's like kind of like a hypnotic state. And their mirror neurons are on, right? All of us have mirror neurons, okay? And basically what are mirror neurons? Mirror neurons is when we can observe and we learn, when a child learns behavior just from observing, just from mimicking. I went and visited my great nephew in South Carolina, my niece's son. He's 18 months, and he will wave. He waves at everybody. When everybody goes by, he's like wave. He's doing this waving. Now, that's a thing also that they do that in South Carolina. I've noticed, like, well,
Lisa, you're frozen.
What's that?
You froze.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
You guys hear me? Okay. So he watches what he's watching and exploring the environment, as kids do. They explore their environment, and then they start to mimic. Now, that's why also some kids will say, you'll hear some kids say maybe a swear word. They have no idea what it means, but they've been hearing that, right? They've heard it. So mirror neurons. So what happens is kids start to mirror and pick up and develop their nervous system by the experiences, the things that we're experiencing and the things that we're seeing, and how they interpret that. Then this is that. So now we have the womb, right? Coming out of the womb and all of the things that were downloaded in the womb. And then we have the mirror neurons that's observing. We also still have those. So we also are still impacted by our mirror neurons. Anytime that we're watching someone we're watching each other laugh, the same part of our brain that's activated when I'm laughing. If I'm laughing, this your same part of your brain that's activated with me laughing is activated. And so that's why laughing is contagious, but also sadness can be as well, right? So that's how mirror neurons impact us. And I think an example of that, Jesus said in John 5:19, I do nothing except what I see my Father doing. That I only do what I see my Father doing. I say that's a biblical example of the mirror neurons, right? So that's true. The other thing that I wanted to really make sure that I included in here that I think is important when we're talking about anxiety, because I think some of these things can sometimes be missed in the big picture, and that's attachment theory. That is attachment theory. Okay, I don't know how. So there is an experiment that was done, and they call it the strange experiment. And this is when they had a lot of preschoolers, infants in a room, and they had a stranger come in into the room. They had the mothers in the room with them first. And what they did is then they had the stranger enter the room after the mother left. And they observed the infants, the kids, the preschoolers, they observed them to see how they responded. How would they respond? Some of them responded. So in other words, would they engage? Some of them responded and they still felt safe. They engaged maybe the stranger. Some of them were afraid when their mother left the room and were distant. And others were completely not affected by their mom leaving the room, didn't even notice that their mother left the room. And then the first group, actually, the secure group, was aware that their mother left the room and was also aware when the mother came back in the room. Now, from this experiment, they actually developed what would call attachment theory. And since then, there's been a lot of different research as well. So that wasn't the only thing, but there's been a lot of just different research as well. So I want to talk about the attachment. So basically what attachment theory is it says that when a child is securely attached, okay, a secure attachment, because again, God designed us, and this is what I mean by connection, and by God designed us as social beings, and He designed us with a need to connect and to be in community, and He created family and parenting and all of that in such a way that that would be the first way that we come in. Now, we know also there was the fall, and so there's no perfect family, and there's sometimes some have been more dysfunction. Sometimes there's more dysfunction in some than others. However, the good news is, even when it has been far from perfect, there's hope, right? There's things that we can do. But so I want to go over the four types of attachment. Okay. So the first one's secure attachment. And this is basically when the style of the parent is the parent is consistent. They're consistent, they're responsive to their child's needs, right? And they're providing consistent, and reliable care. The child then knows I can trust my parent, my caregiver, to meet my needs. Okay. And this actually also, this is important because I believe this also forms, I don't think there's been much research on it, if any, but I think this also, the type of attachment that we had can also instruct even our attachment that we have with God, right? We know that definitely our relationship with our Father does influence our relationship that we have with God. Okay, so that's one, a secure attachment. So that's a trust. That's a good attachment. That's a healthy attachment. Then the anxious, preoccupied, and inconsistent attachment. And this is when there's a caregiver, whether it's a parent or caregiver taking care of the child, is anxious and preoccupied. It's distracted. Maybe the parent was distracted, preoccupied, maybe fluctuating between being overly attentive and smothering or emotionally distant. So it's basically this inconsistent relationship with the child. Okay. And this inconsistency then can lead to a child who has a hard time trusting, who just has a hard time trusting, and also has some emotional instability. It really has a hard time trusting people. Whereas the secure attachment child likes to take risks. You look at they like to take risks. They feel confident. They feel safe in their atmosphere because they've had that created for them.
Hey,
Then we have
Lisa, you can't see
yeah.
me because my picture is disabled. I don't know why, but I just wanted to ask, you said in the womb, right? Did you say that initially?
Oh yeah. Well, this is not in the womb is the atmosphere epigenetics. This is now after the child is born. So this is like in the first 9 months up to a couple years, infant, toddler, of these types of things. Yes, and it actually continues.
Can it
And it
happen
continues.
before birth, like the 9
Absolutely.
months? Okay.
All of this. That's what they're finding, is that all of this, the baby, which we know that, right? A baby, from the time that conception happens, life is there. So everything in the atmosphere, even while the baby is in the womb, the baby is being influenced. Then the dismissive avoidant attachment. Okay. And that's where there's the caregiver is emotionally detached, right? Emotionally detached, and it's really kind of unresponsive. Okay. And this might be a parent who's on drugs. This might be a parent who maybe is just not even physically present very often. But there's a dismissive avoidant attachment. And that leads to fear of intimacy for the child, lack of emotional connection and intimacy. Okay. And the last one is fearful avoidant. And that's just what it is. That's where a caregiver might struggle with their own. And a lot of times, again, the parent may have had these own issues themselves with their parents, right? Your parent, and you didn't have a secure attachment unless you've done some work and gotten some healing, or partnered with Holy Spirit or somebody, then that oftentimes can carry over. And that's what we mean also by the environmental piece. So this is unpredictable. This is a caregiver who's maybe unpredictable and maybe even erratic, causing a lot of confusion and insecurity for the child. Okay. So these are the reason why I wanted to cover these is because these also can impact, right, through adulthood. These can impact us depending on what type of attachment we've had. And so that's something to just be mindful of. And then I want to go over the